I'm going to call to order this meeting of the August 13th Recovery Task Force. Call it to order at 4 p.m. And I'd like to take the roll, so please unmute and say here when I call your name. Jason?
Here.
Thank you. Marisol is excused today. Mike?
I'm here.
Thank you. Nina?
Here.
Thanks. Pavel?
I'm here.
Thank you. Sam? No Sam as of yet. Trish?
Here.
Thank you. Berkey Scholl is also excused today. Grace? No Grace yet. Janine?
Here.
Shashi?
Yeah, here.
Thank you. Marlene?
Here.
Great. Ron?
Present.
Thanks. And Stephanie, who I might have sent a message. She's not going to be here today. I'm not seeing her right now. So thank you all. I'd also like to acknowledge that we have a lot of staff participating in today's call. We have City Administrator Bob Kowitz, Economic Development Manager Jen Davis-Hayes, Assistant to the City Administrator Autumn Monahan, Human Services Coordinator Monica Negrilla, Parks and Community Services Recreation Manager Brian Bernston, Arts Program Administrator Amy Dukes, and Executive Assistant Joanne Biscara. And I'm just checking down my list. I think I did catch everybody. That's great. The next item on our agenda today is the approval of the minutes. These are the minutes of July 23rd, 2020. And is there any objection to approving the July 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes, which were provided in the online agenda? Hearing no objection, the minutes are approved as presented. Joanne, has anyone signed up this afternoon to speak at public comments?
No public commenters.
Okay, thank you. And the next item on our agenda is reports, but there are no reports for this meeting. So we'll move right into today's work items. The first one is the city's COVID-19 response update. And I'd like to ask our City Administrator, Wally Bobkowitz, to introduce the staff and take us through this topic. Thanks, Wally.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the task force, good afternoon. We want to use an update, kind of touch base. We've been meeting for several months now. We really weren't sure how long or what the road that this task force would take. I think we just knew in the early spring that it was important to involve the members of the Issaquah community in our planning to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. So what we'd like to do today is kind of walk through the various points of the recovery plan that this task force reviewed and approved at the beginning of your work, give you updates on where we are with the various components of it, and then at the end of that, answer any additional questions and have a discussion as to what the next steps are, what we should be doing moving forward, how often this task force should be meeting going forward. So that's our plan for today. As you know, the task force adopted a 6-point plan at the beginning of this process. Number 1 was economic recovery, 2, communications, 3, community health, 4, human services, 5, post-recovery planning, and 6, community engagement. And over the last couple of months, we have used these meetings to give you updates, to talk about issues in each of these 6 priority areas of focus. So we'd like to walk through where we're at with each of them this afternoon. And we'll start first with economic recovery, probably the number 1 area that we have focused on over these last several months. And Jen Davis-Hayes, our economic development manager, is here. And Jen, if you could just kind of walk through an overview of kind of what we've done and what the current status is in our economic recovery efforts.
Sure. Thank you, Wally. So hello, good afternoon, everybody. As Wally mentioned, there was a lot of activity around economic development activities. I'll start off providing some updates about the Streetery, our Issaquah Loyal, and our business grants. So the Streetery, as you all know, was a pilot program for 2 weeks, and we had such good results from it, we decided to extend it through the end of September. So we are now 5 weekends in, and we have 7 more ahead. And so our partner, the Downtown Issaquah Association, has been instrumental in helping us to make this happen, and we thank them for that strong partnership. We expanded to Sundays 2 weweeks ago, and so now we have every single restaurant that is open is participating, and Sundays for brunch seem to be a very popular opportunity for our community members to go down and enjoy our historic downtown. DIA is also working with leveraging opportunities for our retail businesses to take advantage of the opportunity. So that benefit is beyond just for the restaurants. Feedback that we've received in general has been that while there are a lot of people who attend, there's a lot of social distancing and mask usage as required. And DIA is also offering some handcrafted masks for those who come down and don't have their mask ready or want to upgrade. So again, lots of signage, lots of encouragement and sanitation stations. We make sure that this activity is safe, and the businesses are very active in that partnership as well. You'll see, if you go down to the streeter, you'll see in the coming weeks some additional business activity in the north end where there's some gap. Fresh is actually going to provide some fresh juice and rolled ice cream that's unique to their business. And DIA is also working with the Gilman Village businesses to help direct people to let them know those businesses are open. So as you know, some people have asked, why can't we do this at other locations? And, while our pedestrian area of downtown is most aligned to make this happen, if there's interest from other businesses and for partial street closures, we're willing to discuss. Related to outdoor business activity, the city also passed 2 ordinances that helped businesses around around regulations. And so one of them is to encourage outdoor business activity with a simplified application that is no fee. And so to date, we've had businesses in downtown and one in the Meadows Shopping Center apply and utilize that. So that allows businesses all throughout the week to have outdoor seating or outdoor retail activities. The exciting news is that we're in the process of distributing $500,000 in business grants to 54 businesses that were randomly selected. We had over $2 million in requests from 220 applicants. So we had a few that, obviously that were not funded, but when we informed the businesses that were not funded, we shared that we have a new business grant available now called the Business Reinvention Grant. It's currently accepting applications through Wednesday, August 19th at noon. This is to help support the innovative efforts of businesses to adjust to COVID-19. So that's, again, trying to support businesses as they had to reinvent themselves and pivot to provide new ways of doing business or just new physical operations. So we're excited to see what those innovative ideas are. And part of that effort will be that we will be sharing those ideas with other businesses and having the opportunity for other businesses to learn from those who have applied for that. If you've driven along Park Drive in the Highlands or the southern portion of Front Street, you may have seen the pole banners or the street banner highlighting the Issaquah Loyal campaign. That is our Buy Local campaign. We have posters in windows, window clings are beginning to be seen around town. This is a really campaign, an opportunity for our businesses and individuals alike to promote and share the amazing local businesses in Issaquah. So we're excited to see that the hashtag Issaquah Loyal being used more in imagery used by our businesses and residents. And if you haven't visited the website yet, go to our city's website and search Issaquah Loyal, and you can add the Issaquah Loyal imagery to your social media profile, your signature line, or other ways you want to show your Issaquah pride. So we hope to continue to look ahead at what we are planning to do to help businesses recover in the next 6 months and beyond. And we want to ensure that our residents that are working from home have the opportunity to quote unquote do business and enjoy our amenities of the city as well. We are so thankful that you, as the task force members, have provided your service to this effort, and look forward to continuing the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the tourism and visitor industries here? I know that Visit Issaquah has made some announcements as far as some funding that they're going to be making available. And I know as recently as yesterday, the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee is also taking this up. So could you talk a little bit about those tourist serving industries and some money that might be coming to be more of assistance to them.
And
Yes,
Jen,
thank you.
you may want to introduce and describe what those groups are as well. I'm not sure that our team is familiar with either of those.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll do some terminology in the beginning. So Visit Issaquah is our, it's called a destination marketing organization. So they are the organization to market and promote our tourism related businesses and amenities here in Issaquah. LTAC is Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. So when people stay at a hotel in Issaquah, part of their fees that they pay goes into a lodging fund for the city to then promote the tourist opportunities to draw more people to the city. So, so Visit Issaquah did recently, their board decided to do a sponsorship program for nonprofits to help those tourism-related businesses, so or organizations. So you think about Village Theater, Cougar Mountain Zoo, Fish, all those places that have really been hard hit during this time. So they will be releasing that more information at the end of August, I believe. But they are committing $100,000 again for sponsorship to help these business organizations to get through this tough time. Yesterday, LTAC, again, that's Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, is part of the city's boards and commissions, allocated $100,000 to match that as well. And so we'll be we're working on our application process as well. We're meeting tomorrow with Visit Issaquah to talk about how to do this jointly, but we will be providing assistance as well this fall, and then also some next spring. So knowing again that organizations are going to have, this is not in 2 months this will all be done. We want to make sure that our organizations continue to have the support they need financially to be here when things open back up and people begin to travel and do business travel here in Issaquah. So we're very excited about that. And again, this is an opportunity for us to support our beloved treasures in Issaquah and keep them here for when things get back to our new normal.
And also, just to kind of conclude, Village Theater, as we mentioned before, the Arts Commission here in Issaquah recommended to the City Council a few weeks ago an one-time allocation of $25,000 in addition to the funds that they'd also already received from the Arts Board. So that's good news too. So Madam Mayor, members of the task force, it's amazing to sit here and listen to Jen go through all these various initiatives, all of which started in April, none of which existed prior to that. So these are all things that we've had to do in response to the COVID-19 crisis, and I want to thank Jen for all of her outstanding work. And Madam Mayor, if there's any questions, we probably could just take them by group, by each of the goal areas.
That was great. I thought I was going to ask you that question, City Administrator. So it looks like Nina has a question. Nina, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Nina Milligan in Issaquah Highlands. And Jen, thank you very much for your presentation. The question I had was if you could, if there is one, put in our chat window an easy web link to how private companies can participate in expanding into the streets and sidewalks, that process by which I don't know where to find it on the website.
Thank you, Nina. I am not seeing any other questions at this time, so you can proceed, Wally. Who's next up?
Great. The second area was communications. Autumn Monahan, our assistant to the city administrator, is here, and as she has visited before to talk a little bit about, the wide and varied communications issues that we've had to address during the COVID-19 crisis. So I've just asked her to come and kind of give a brief update of where we stand and kind of summarize all that we've done as we move forward.
Hang on one second, Wally. Shashi has a comment, and I'm not sure. Is it on this topic coming up, Shashi, or is it on the business one?
It is about street rate to improve our economy.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you very much, Jen, for your presentation. As it is, I always love whatever you have to say. Just like as a street rate, I had an idea yesterday while watching some videos. We could add to our economy by adding another element, which is street performance. So there are some dancing schools which would probably come for free, and do some folk dances or something while people are dining out, which would attract more people and more business. But I'm not in favor of doing that during COVID at all. I'm totally, as long as people are getting hospitalized, I think nearly 50% of them die. So every death is at the cost of somebody's pleasure, which I'm not very much in favor of. But in general, later on, this would definitely add to our economy. Thank you.
Shashi, thank you for the comment. I think what we're hearing is that people are excited about having something to do, but also pleased that it's being done in a manner that makes them feel safe. And so as we move through the different phases, there may be opportunities. I know some people have asked for music and dancing already, but we're not at a phase that allows that. I also, Jen can probably elaborate on this, I believe this is so popular, this idea, that it's going to live past the COVID era. It's very likely to become a thing. And Jen, is that what you're hearing with Dia and the feedback so far? Is the community likes this? Yeah.
Completely. And they can see the opportunity for performances in the future and artists and musicians. But right now it's about coming and going to those restaurants. And a lot of the restaurants have an hour wait. So we're not, at least yet, in the time of trying to attract people to come. I think they're doing a great job of doing it themselves.
Yes. And Trish looks like she has a question as well.
Yeah, I'll be quick. And thanks, Jen, for your presentation. So, okay, given that this will probably be extended, so what kind of feedback are we getting about from people that are not happy with not being able to drive through? Is that continual?
We haven't received a lot of negative feedback lately, and I see Autumn shaking her head, and so she's keeping in touch with the social media. I think there was a fear in the beginning that there was going to be a lot of negative impact, but that has not seemed to happen. So we continue to monitor and make sure, and we're making adjustments to lighting and to the detour route to make sure that those things do work well. But I think that the benefit of people coming down and even if they're strolling through the area, that's really been a positive thing to get people out safely for something to do in our community.
That's great to hear. Thanks.
Thanks, Trish. It looks like you have a question from Ron as well. Ron, go ahead.
Yep. Hi, thanks all. Jen, thank you for your presentation. So on traffic on Newport, I haven't seen hardly any increase in traffic because we're closing Front Street down. And I think because of the success of it, I'd like to see it in front of PPC as something we might be able to do to changing the street system so that we can have this more permanent setup.
Yeah, Ron, I think you are echoing a community sentiment about a desire to recapture and reimagine our public spaces and how we use them. And so we'll see where this one goes. I think it's going to go pretty far. It also looks like Jason has a question.
Hello, thank you, Madam Mayor. Since we're talking about economic recovery, I have noticed at least one business went out of business. I'm just wondering if anyone has any data about how many businesses in our community unfortunately have shuttered their doors.
So unfortunately, we've been keeping track as we hear about them. So there isn't a requirement for business to contact us and say they're closing. So that's unfortunate. We can't find that information. So I would say that we have a handful. And would you mind saying which one that you saw close? Because maybe we don't know about it yet.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the Rogue Brewery, the Issaquah Brew House. I saw that they have a lease sign up. So.
Yeah, so they actually closed before COVID. So they closed as a business operations decision, and so they left beginning of March. So COVID wasn't even kind of an issue at that time. So there are a few of those businesses that I think people will see close, and they think it's because of COVID. And I think there's a few that we are tracking and saying right before COVID, but that way we just kind of keep track of that. So thanks for asking that, though.
Sure, thanks, Jen.
And Jason, I think what's interesting is even the anecdotal information. When I'm in a business, I asked Pavel this the other day, I just want to know how businesses that are open are doing. And I hear things like at 35, to 50% of the business they used to have. So very different from maybe some of our big box stores, which haven't seen that. I think it's this downturn is much harder on the smaller businesses.
Yeah, and I know that with all this grant money that's going out, it's a wonderful thing. And like Mr. Bobkowitz said, it's amazing how we've gotten these initiatives up and running. But I just kind of, it's that money goes so quickly. And so did something like the Village Theater really benefit from 20,000 when they're having $1 million galas versus a smaller store where 20,000, like the Cougar Mountain Zoo, I mean, that could be the difference of them staying in business or not, whereas 20,000 for the Village Theater is really kind of more of a drop in the bucket. So.
Yeah, Jen, I'm not sure if you want to address that one or not. It's an interesting comment. I feel like we may have some future rounds of funding that we receive as a city that we'll be able to support businesses again. But who knows how many of the small businesses will be around by the time the next tranche of money comes. Big concern.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing is that I think small businesses are the ones that are going to be, we're going to see that in the next 6 months, 9 months as things, start to come back, but they may have not had enough revenues to keep going. And so we have business advisor services. So what people right now can do work one-on-one with them on how to strengthen and kind of pivot. Again, the grant we're doing now is to helping that pivot happen. And we're going to be doing a business survey. We do one every 4 years, and we're going to do one this fall and have some what I call COVID-related questions to say, what do you need in order to continue to thrive or survive in the next 6 months? Because again, we've been anecdotally been hearing things, but I think as an East Side City Coalition, as we talk about what's next, I think it is going to be those smaller businesses that just have exhausted their savings and just can't hold on. So it's hopefully we can help some of those businesses before that gets to that point.
Yeah.
And I just want to let you know, I looked at, there's 8 businesses that we have tracked that, again, that doesn't mean that's all of them, but 8 businesses that we know that have closed since the COVID time.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, Autumn, I think you're up. There was a flood of questions we had to get to. You're on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I put together a few slides just because I'm so visual and I wanted to share a few things that we've been working on in communications. So let me see if I can share my screen. Are you able to see that okay?
Yes, Autumn, we can.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So my name is Autumn Monahan. I'm the assistant to the city administrator and spearhead our communications team as well as our communication efforts. I first wanted to quickly provide an overview of what the goals were for the task force involving communications. So there were 6 areas: better public health messaging, more extensive use of social media, developing messaging for what to expect at restaurants, more extensive sharing of city government plans, messaging for non-English speaking community members, and better utilization of ICTV. So as we dive into those 6 topics, the first is public health messaging. And as I shared last time I presented, video is definitely our most powerful communication tool for the city. And so I'm very thankful for the task force members who did submit some videos just recently of them putting on face coverings. And we're putting that video together right now and should be sharing it soon with our community. We've also used a lot of public health messaging from King County Public Health and all of their different agencies. Just last week, we shared this video, which is a tour of the quarantine center here in Issaquah that was produced by King County TV. It is a really enlightening and interesting video, very well done and well received by our community. It was just a great way that people could see what was actually going on inside this center. And so that was also really well received.
Autumn, when you are done today, or done with your talking points, would you put the link to the video in case any of our task force members haven't seen it? Thank you.
Yeah. Next up, when we talk a bit about multiple languages, this is still an area that we're working really hard on and figuring out other ways we can reach those who do not speak English. Videos do help as far as being a good tool to show safety messaging without having to use a whole lot of words. I'm also thankful for community members who oftentimes will share our posts and translate messages for us to their followers and to their networks as well. Jen mentioned a bit about streetery and communications. We've been promoting streetery heavily, especially around safety messaging. So reminding folks to still be practicing physical distancing, to be wearing face coverings. I will reiterate that there's been a lot of community support around this project on social media. Anything negative I've seen has been around just encouraging people to continue to wear face coverings. But besides that, it's been overwhelmingly positive as far as the program. So people are very excited about it. Oftentimes they're sharing selfies or pictures of themselves or their families that are out for brunch or for dinner on Front Street. So that's been great to see. As far as ICTV, I asked Tim Smith, who runs our program at ICTV, to pull some metrics around live views of our meetings. And we were amazed to see the increase in live views of meetings. So we've seen a whole lot more participation in people who are watching public meetings now that we're all staying home to stay healthy. So there's definitely been a huge uptick in views and participation in watching videos live through the ICTV channel. Jen also mentioned Issaquah Loyal, and our communications team has been heavily involved in this effort in producing videos, a lot of social content. I also wanted to mention too, we have some Issaquah Loyal window clings that are available at point of sale at a lot of stores. So as folks are, joining Front Street, the streetery, or seeing just stopping by local stores, they can also pick up some clings and put them in their vehicles or on their windows to show that they're loyal to Issaquah. We've also gotten really creative when it comes to programming with many of our departments. And so in partnership with the Parks and Community Services team, ICTV is offering concerts on the screen instead of concerts on the green this year. So we've been streaming our community concerts live on Friday nights. That's also been really well received by folks. And we picked a lot of our favorite concerts to stream. And so that's been a fun way for people to enjoy some programming on Friday nights while they're at home. And finally, we're also trying to find new ways to connect with folks online in ways that we typically provide service. So not all the kids that typically go to the city's summer camp were able to enjoy summer camp this summer. So we offered their toys a chance to do that instead. So a collection of Issaquah toys enjoyed a very fun afternoon at Confluence Park and even stayed the night. And roasted marshmallows and did a whole lot of activities. And families could follow along on these adventures and watch their toys have fun in real time on social media. And this was a really fun project that got a lot of people just feeling good. It was just something happy and fun. And we got a lot of positive feedback about that. So we're just trying to find new and different ways to still keep connections with our community. And that's all I have. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Autumn. So this time I'll give it a few seconds. I think I rushed forward. I'm not seeing anything in the chat box right now. And Wally, while we're waiting, you can tee that up and we'll see. Autumn, thank you for the presentation. If there are some late questions, we'll just jump back. Wally, what's up next?
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next was community health, and this was, again, the very beginning of the crisis. There was lots of concern among the task force about testing issues, about access to testing, access to antibody testing, issues with masks, things like that. And if you recall, a few meetings ago, we had the director of King County Health, along with the chief operating officer of Swedish Issaquah Hospital, come and talk a little bit about that. So that, we've talked a little bit in this task force about those issues. I don't know that we have unfortunately been able to move the needle as an Issaquah community on this. The county now provides daily information, which at the beginning of this crisis was not available, but daily information about what is happening here in Issaquah. So I think we've been able to follow that. And fortunately, the number of positive cases, the numbers of hospitalizations and deaths have really gone down through the course of the crisis. We were severely hit, I think, at the very beginning. And as time has passed, we have been in a better place. So the access to testing, I think, is there for those who need it. We certainly, as a city government, have not heard from community members saying that they cannot access testing at this point. So the issues of community health, I would just be curious either now or as we review our next steps moving forward, where the task force thinks we need to go in the areas of community health. But again, Mayor, happy to answer any questions at this point on this, or we can move on to the next topic.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Wally. I have a couple of things to add as well. I've had really amazing communications with Leo Fleur from the King County Health Department in terms of coordinating information about the Issaquah Recovery Center, and also thanking our team here and our city for supporting the county's work, and they're going to have a mask pickup location in Issaquah in August or September. I can't remember the exact date, but Autumn knows. But also hearing from him that they had a bill before the King County Council this week to extend the funding for the Issaquah Recovery Center through December 31st, and they will likely have an extension in their 2021 budget proposal as well. Their lease expires at the Issaquah Recovery Center in February, and they are going to be talking likely about a lease extension. And the reason I bring that up is because we are where we are for a while. So even if we move to phase 3 and keep moving forward, we're still going to have the need for handing out masks, testing, Issaquah Recovery Center. So we're now thinking into 21, how long things are going to be open and needed and have to be funded. So that's just a recent update I got this week from Mr. Fleur. Very interesting. Wally, I am not seeing any questions, but Autumn has done a great job posting that video on the Issaquah facility in case anybody from our team hasn't had a chance to see it. What do you have for us next?
So the next area, Madam Mayor, members of the task force, is human services. And I, Monica Negrella, who's been here several times, I only wonder what her life was like back in February and the work that she was doing or not doing for the city of Issaquah back in February. But it all changed in March, and we have really had a lot of focus on housing issues, on food issues, and Monica has been the leader of the staff efforts on that. So Monica, I'm not even sure where you begin with an overview of what you've been up to the last 4 or 5 months, but if you could just kind of give a general overview of where things are at, the money that we've been able to allocate through city resources and through CARES dollars, and your sense of where we're heading in the future.
Sounds good, and thank you so very much for the welcome, and hello, members of the task force and Mayor Polly. I'm Monica Negrella, I'm the Human Services Coordinator, and I think I'm going to start by actually following Autumn's lead and trying to share here a brief visual, because like Autumn said, it's sometimes so much easier to just have something that you can focus on. It probably is going to help me stay a little bit more focused as well. Just want to make sure that you all see my screen, right?
We do. Yes, we do, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so in human services, the 4 focus areas identified by the task force for human services were focused on vulnerable populations, landlord and tenants assistance, mental health resources, and creative solutions for nursing homes and those who are isolated. So I'm going to provide a brief overview of all those 4 focus areas. So speaking of where my life was before in February, I feel like in human services, we always focus on vulnerable population. That being said, when you have a crisis, then everything just increases exponentially, right? So we define in human services vulnerable populations as those who suffer for different reasons, whether that is economic, social, environmental, or health-related issues, and those who are impacted by these issues, and those at high risk for poor health outcomes because of various concerns. So in terms of a few focus areas for the vulnerable populations, we focus on low-income residents, supporting those who are at risk or homeless, and individuals with disabilities and seniors. So early on into the crisis, the city's focus was keeping food on the table and roof overhead for folks. And so we started working on housing stability, including some rental assistance, which I'm going to talk a little bit about just in a minute. And also the city is looking even currently in some policy options on what to do once the moratorium is lifted. Also, early into the crisis, we convened a food security collaborative with all of the food and meal programs in our city, from the food bank to the meal programs, the senior center and Eastside Baby Corner, as well as the Eastside Friends of Seniors and the school district are part of this collaborative. And so we are working and continuing to meet with these groups in helping and not only for sharing of resources, but really looking at planning long term, knowing that the crisis is here to stay, unfortunately. We are looking at all sorts of measures, from staffing capacity and volunteer capacity to donations, funding and financial resources and advocacy for those financial resources, as well as operations. And through the CARES Act funds, we were able to allocate money to our food collaborative groups. These are the organizations that I mentioned earlier. And so a total of $200,000 were allocated from the city to help support the food collaborative. We are also working with our supportive housing programs and providers and trying to coordinate and provide any support that they might need, whether that was providing masks to the low-income residents or just helping them identify resources. So kind of like those are some of the examples. For individuals who are homeless, we've been part of a regional coordination. The human services, through the human services grants, the city supports, even if in non-COVID times, the city supports shelters and supportive housing services in the region. And so we continued the coordination with them during COVID. Of course, as I mentioned, we also coordinated and continue to coordinate with the meals programs who offer warm meals to our individuals who are homeless in our community. And then more recently, we are actually just finished an application in collaboration with King County on the east side cities, in collaboration with King County, are proposed a shelter expansion on the east side through the Department of Commerce. So just looking for additional resources everywhere we can. And of course, for individuals with disabilities and seniors, we continue to coordinate with our providers. And as everybody is trying to rethink how they provide services, and I'm going to talk about this in just a minute in my next couple of slides. I will provide more details. I mentioned earlier the rental assistance. So in March, right as the crisis started, the city allocated $100,000 for rental assistance. That was distributed, and over 200 households were able to receive assistance through those funds. Currently, the local providers continue to provide emergency assistance through their own funds, as well as the regular human services grants that the city provides. And then upcoming, right now, both the state and the county have underway programs for additional rental assistance. One is coming from the Department of Commerce that started earlier in the month, and then also the county is putting additional resources, whether they are still federal funds or local funds, but those are in the process, and we should hear about those in the next week or so, actually, by the end of August. In terms of mental health resources, this was another focus area for the Recovery Task Force. We've been working with our providers to see, again, in anywhere we can support them and help with coordination. Many of the providers switched to telehealth and online support services. We help them identify resources for additional funding, as much of their funding dropped. For those who are more familiar with mental health resources, often billing for those services happens only if you actually meet face-to-face with the person. And so until they were able to figure out a way to provide services. Many lost funding. We also helped them with PPEs. As you remember, early on, it was so hard to find masks. I'm so glad and grateful that that is not necessarily an issue anymore. However, early on, we worked really hard in trying to coordinate and find masks for our providers for mental health services. We also, for mental health resources, we also provided support to residents who contacted us and needed assistance. Our communications team has done a great job in providing information on the website, but also one-on-one, either via phone or emails. We provided that assistance, and we continue to refer residents to services. The city-funded programs these are the organizations that we currently support financially for and provide mental health resources. So they are NAMI on the east side, the Crisis Connections Teen Link. This is the phone services that teens can contact, and they receive confidential services provided by teens. Therapeutic Health Services, Icon of Greater Seattle, Friends of Youth, and LifeWire. This last one focuses on supporting individuals with who are struggling with domestic violence. And lastly, the fourth area was creative solutions for those who are isolated. So through the CARES Act funds, one of our providers is Eastside Friends of Seniors. Oops, I apologize. It's Eastside Friends of Seniors, and we've been working with them and with some of our cultural groups in Issaquah, in particular the Latino Club, to create some care packages and safe home visits to our seniors. And so just trying to look at ways to think outside the box to provide services. And also, I know our senior center has done an amazing job in providing all sorts of online classes and contacting seniors and creating a mailing program and all sorts of creative activities. And I know that the food bank also is providing food deliveries to our senior apartment complexes. And we have many volunteers who contacted us at the city, basically saying that they would love to help somehow and be involved. And so what we've been doing was to connect those volunteer groups with those that we heard that might need help. And with that, I think this is kind of like an overview of what we've been doing. We will continue to support our providers and our residents. As expected in times of crisis, we believe that it's in the next 6 to 9 months or in the next year when we are really going to start seeing the real impact. But at this time, we continue to just find ways to support each other, and that's it.
Monica, thank you. It's very sweet to hear you use the word "we" when it's just when we have a staff of one working on this issue. But the "we" is the amazing connection she's made with our community members, our community volunteers, our community nonprofits, and service delivery providers. And she's a part of this very big, supportive, very, very caring network. And we will have lots of opportunities through the next year to add to that network. So, because we have citizens who want to help, and we have residents who need help. Mike has a question for Monica, and then Pavel. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. That's you covered a lot of ground, Monica. That's amazing work. Way to go. The question is, are you seeing demand continuing to increase for the many services that you just described, or is it stabilized or actually decreasing? And then the other part of the equation is the support that's necessary to continue to help people through this. Is that increasing, decreasing, or is that stabilized as well?
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your support. We have seen the increase in need, so the need increasing, but at this point, it's increasing steadily. I think it is also a sign that Issaquah overall, it's a more affluent community. I think, for example, when we look at the entire King County, we see the needs increasing more rapidly in South King County than in Issaquah. However, the needs are increasing here as well. So they didn't double yet, let's say, but we've seen, for example, for food needs, we've seen an increase of 20-30%, the same for basic needs. So it's increasing. As far as the financial support that organizations received initially, which is again typical during crisis, people want to help right away. And so initially they saw an increase in financial help. However, over the last 2 months, we've seen those resources starting to decrease. And so we expect, again, as even just talking with the food bank a few days ago, we all expect that in October, November is when the resources are really gonna hit one of the lowest. And the same we hear from the rental assistance provider. It's the winter that's gonna be a little bit more concerning for sure.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Before we go to the next question, I just want to add, I've used Monica's materials, both her housing stability data and her food security network data, to send it off to both our federal senators and congresswomen and also our local senator and legislative reps, because it's concrete data that shows that the problem is worsening and that not bringing money into local communities, we're trending in a very scary direction with those that are in need. Money is running out, and we have a ways to go with this crisis and this economic downturn. So next is Pavel.
Hi, Monica. Thank you for amazing work you do. So I have a question concerning children. So since all schools are going online, and those low-income families will be the hit hardest with this decision. So is there a part of your job, or is there some program or something that is designed to support those families, their children?
Yes, thank you so much for that question, Pavel. So yes, a few things for that. In our food collaborative, the school district is also involved. Before the summer started, the school district had adjusted their program to where they were delivering food to children using the school buses. Over the summer, the food bank took on that project, and they've been providing food to children in the school district. And actually, they have seen a really huge increase in those needs, more than the adults or regular families. Moving forward, we do have another food collaborative in a couple of weeks here. We are waiting to hear if the school district and what the plans are for the school district, if they plan on continuing food deliveries, or if not, for us to see how we are going to coordinate that and support them. So that's one aspect. In the meantime, I've been also working with our low-income providers, especially with Imagine Housing for those who are up in Rosecrest, for example. And we provided earlier a community grant to them, and they used that grant to find some summer online resources. They purchased some laptops, and they invited some providers who either did some computer programming exercises and reading programs. And so that's what they've done so far. Of course, more is needed, and as we look into the new school year, we do need to see and look for new ways to support them. And again, just find ways to coordinate with everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel. I know at the state level, our representatives are there now in various different task forces and committees looking at the whole issue of what do we need to do to make it an equitable experience during the school year for those that need extra help. And I'm not sure where all that's going to land. We'll have to see. It's difficult. It has the potential to create a very big gap. Very big gap. Next, we have Shashi, followed by Jason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Monica, for a very nice presentation. And as you said, I do notice from the demographics, we are affluent as compared to some other cities around. And I was also on board for 6 years with Way Back In of Renton, which gives transitional housing to the homeless people. And my feeling is, due to COVID, there could be increase in homelessness. And do we have a program where we work towards ending the homelessness for the families? And do we have any transitional housing? Can we look into that direction and to really take them out of homelessness rather than just keeping them helping and sustaining? Thank you.
Yes. And thank you so much. And unfortunately, homelessness, it's such a huge concern in our area, right? And it's not a problem just for Issaquah, it's a problem for our entire county and the state. And so, yes, while there are resources, they are just far, the needs far outweigh the needs, and what did I say? The needs outweigh the resources, right? And so we are working with actually our East Side partners, the other cities on the East Side, as well as with the county, to try to find alternatives for that. There are transitional housing programs. There are some and programs available to stop. I think what we are trying to focus is to prevent homelessness. And so that's why I think we've been focusing a lot on housing stability and rental assistance, because by creating policies and assistance, we hopefully can kind of like limit that risk of more people becoming homeless. For those who are homeless, I know that there's a regional effort that actually is being set up now at the county level to address homelessness. So that is in the process, and I know that our city is looking into ways to partner with that.
Thank you, Monica. I believe Jason's up next.
Thank you. So I'm sure this has probably been thought of, but I'll say it anyway. Is there anything like a food drive? Because again, at the start of all of this back in March, I think everyone was under the hopeful consideration that this would be over in 3 weeks, like the governor's order. So it's not surprising to see that giving go up and then starting to wane as we're now going into month 5 or 6. I'm just wondering is there an actual ban on collecting canned foods, things of that nature? I know earlier in the pandemic they didn't necessarily want people donating foods, but almost like kind of like our firefighters do with the little boot when they're out there collecting money, almost like a save the date type idea. Issaquah, save the date, September 16th, we're going to have a large food drive or food receptacles everywhere where you can put food that's non-perishable into buckets or something like that. I don't know if that's even allowed during a pandemic. I know the rules are still being written as we speak, but ultimately something like that. I know people are probably going to getting tired of placards and banners and things, but almost like a save the date thing where people, hey, the 16th, we're all getting together and everybody bring a canned food. If you're driving down Front Street and hand it to somebody, they can put it in a basket. And, we can have 1 or 2 people out there in costumes, like, hit something like a drum or a cymbal every time they get a donation. Make it exciting. Have Minnie Mouse or Mickey Mouse out there, hitting a cymbal or doing something fun every time somebody drops some non-perishable food into a basket, and maybe have them located at different points in Issaquah. But the whole idea is they'd have to have at least a little bit of notice to know, hey, in a week, we're going to do something really cool for our community.
Or Jason in a Mickey Mouse contest with Sal. Monica, we have our next convening coming. Is this an idea that's been floating around at all?
Yes, there was actually, you're right, at the very beginning, all the food banks stopped receiving donations just because of the safety rules, and also because food banks rely heavily on volunteers. Often those are seniors, and so they did not want to put anyone at risk. However, that being said, after the initial wave, they actually organized a food drive. Eastside Baby Corner and the food bank had a food drive that was very safe and were very successful. And so we are talking about a second one. And also, actually, I have a meeting with Corey Walters, who is the executive director of the food bank next week. I also want to talk to her about September, which typically, Mayor Polly, it's Mayor's Month of Concern. So I just wanted to actually brainstorm a little bit with them to see what and how can we do something like that in a safe way. So your comment and your ideas are
We'll take them. We will take them with us. And Monica has a lot of information on the needs of our different providers. And it's not just the food itself. They have lost their ability to fundraise. The online fundraisers don't raise as much money. There may be a point where we're asking people, for example, in my family, our income hasn't changed much. So if there is ever a stimulus check, I may put out a message saying, for those of you who can and want to, I'll donate my stimulus check to the food bank, because they need the cash to buy the items that can't be donated, like fresh food and other things. And so we may have to do a community cash drive for them, because they just don't have the ability to do it. And they need dollars as well as food. So
you still have to have Mickey Mouse out there.
Well, I think you already said you're going to be Mickey Mouse. Come on, you can't take that back. Okay. Okay, we've got 2 volunteers. Monica, we can totally do this. Costumes, instruments, it'll be amazing. I'm not seeing any more questions. We have 2 more speakers today and then sort of a wrap-up conversation. So, Wally, who do we have up next?
Yes, Madam Mayor, before we get off the issue of human services, there's one other item I want to mention, and that is the City Council's continued concern regarding evictions. And the Council considered an ordinance specific to Issaquah a few weeks ago prior to Governor Inslee's extension of the eviction moratorium. The Council remains concerned, and the Council appointed an ad hoc committee, which has been meeting this month, looking at options. The Council's having a special study session, if I believe, correct me anyone if I'm getting the date wrong, I believe it's August 25th, Tuesday, where they're going to be coming back with additional suggestions and recommendations to the City Council. So this idea of being concerned about our fellow residents facing potential eviction once these moratoriums end also is a piece of the puzzle that we're working on. So just wanted to mention that as well. 2 other items in the task force's plan. One was a recovery planning, and unfortunately, we just haven't gotten far enough in the actual dealing with the emergency itself to be focused as much on recovery as I think we would like to be. So that, I think, is something that we'll continue to work on in the months ahead. And then lastly was community engagement. That largely has been around our Parks and Community Services Department. Brian Bernson is here from our Parks Department to talk a little bit about how they have been impacted, how they have been able to pivot with the programs that they provide, with some of the facilities, the pool, for example. And so, Brian, if you could just kind of give an overview of what your department has been through over the last few months and what the prognosis is looking forward as we move ahead.
Yeah, happy to. Madam Mayor, Mr. City Administrator, task force members, thank you for having me. Like I said, Brian Bernson, I'm Recreation Manager for the Parks and Community Services Division. Just giving you a quick little update on some of the things we've had going this summer. It's been, as everybody knows, it's been crazy. We've been taking, since the very beginning, we took sort of a flexible, agile approach to our, the programs and the things that were coming. At first, out of the gate, we all thought it was going to be a sprint. It's turning into more of a marathon now. And I think we've all recognized that this is a little bit longer term thing. With that, we've been trying to provide a little bit of light where we can, pointing back towards a little bit of normalcy. Currently, we have a Park Ambassador program going on that we started in late July and is going through August, where we have staff going out 4 days a week at heavier times during the day, speaking to people within the parks, trails, and open spaces just about best practices, really just trying to promote a positive message about wearing face masks, social distancing, and encouraging best practices. You're not gathering in large groups and whatnot. So we've had a really good response. We've handed out a number of masks. We've had a number of great conversations. That's been a really good effort that the team's been working on. At our senior center, We've been providing meals there since day one of this pandemic. That never stopped. We've always provided meals at the senior center, and we're continuing to do so today. The modeling obviously looks a little differently because we're following public health recommendations and best practices for doing that. Our senior center is also providing a bunch of online virtual classes and connecting with seniors to make sure they're not feeling isolated, that they have a place to call if they want to touch base and be connected with somebody. We're providing resources and connecting them with others as well. So some fun stuff we have going is a little bit of the summer day camps. I think you've seen maybe some of them out and about at different locations, but our community center has been running summer day camps where this is the last week of what we call Kinder Camp, which is for kindergarten age children. We have 2 more weeks left of what we call Camp Qua, which is elementary age school children. And then we also have some sports camps that are going out and about on some of the parks, just some of our fields and whatnot. And again, these are, I say them easily, but they are large lifts and big efforts because there's a lot of requirements and we take very seriously how to conduct these programs under the safest of measures, right? With face masks, social distancing. It's a realignment of all the way in the program that we've done in the past because there's individualized equipment and supplies for each individual so that we keep those separated. There's not crossing groups and keeping small groups within their small groups without crossing over with other groups in case you do have something that comes up with somebody getting a contamination or whatnot. And regularly cleaning and more cleaning. So just so you know, all these programs I mentioned, there is a lot of stuff that goes behind it. The team's doing a lot of work and it's a big heavy lift to make it go. But it's creating some of this respite for some of the parents to have a place that they can take their kids, they feel safe, and they can continue their work. So that's what's going on with the summer day camps. Just recently, about a month ago, we opened up the Julie's Pool. So that is open for lap swimming. Again, safety measures. We can, the lap swimming is 1 person per lane. People register and, book out a full lane for an hour. So, and then we have controls over who comes and goes at different times, just so we don't have too much crossover. Issaquah swim teams also conducting their practices. They look very different as well because they're heavily restricted on how many people they can have in the pool. So, it's a much longer time to get that same number of kids in there practicing and conditioning. We have the farmers market that has been going on since when did we start that? That was beginning of June. So we're a little month late on that one. But the farmers market, hand in hand with public health on that one too. We have a public health representative that's there almost every Saturday, and we're seeing right now about 2,000 people that come through the market. Again, you go down there, it's people are wearing their masks, they're socially distanced. There's no eating while you're there. So we have people continuously circling through that market, making sure that everybody's adhering to best practices. But that's been truly enjoyed by a lot of people. And we've had a very, very positive response. With our community center, we're, as we talk about that flexible and agile approach, we're looking into this upcoming fall and winter and wanting to do the same thing. There's a real need as the schools have gone to online education. We're talking to different partners and really trying to do some planning around how can we support parents that may need help for all-day care, and not only all-day care, but also homework and study time during that time. So we're doing our research, talking to different partners, and just trying to come up with different ideas of what this fall, winter might look like in our support of the community and people needing maybe some childcare or maybe it's not childcare during school, but maybe it might be something after school, right, where the kids are looking to burn off some energy. Well, that's what we do well, right? We burn the energy out of the kids pretty well, just having fun and having a good time. So we might even be able to have Mickey Mouse come out. That would just sounds like that could be a good thing. Bring a character that's always popular. So that's kind of just some of the stuff we got going on. There's a lot of little things that go into that, but those are some of the higher arching things that we got going on right now. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Brian, that's awesome. I just need to let the task force know that if any group has had to pivot hard, it's been Parks and Recreation. Almost everything they do was restricted right away. And they are also kind of what we call the happy group in the building, where they're always the fun ones. And so, if you can give them something to do and say, be creative and create something for the community, that they will, because that's just where their heart is. So, Brian, you have to say thank you to all of your team. And I know about the fall coming forward. Again, you guys have all that creative energy flowing, and I appreciate that because everything you do is just so good for our families and our kids and everybody. It's wonderful. Thank you. Got some questions for you. First up, let me make sure I get my time right here. I believe it's Jason. Yes, Jason, way you go.
So I have a question that's on everybody's mind regarding the parks. Have our skateboarding friends been behaving?
Great question. Great question. Our skateboard, we talked about those park ambassadors, right? Well, one of our most frequented locations is to spend a lot of time down there talking to our skater friends. So yes, it's been getting better. We've been putting a lot of effort towards that location in particular. And like I said, it's a real positive message because it's like our message is, hey, help us keep these open, right? Let's wear our face masks. Let's, especially with skating, sometimes if there's like 2 or 3 skaters out there, not a big deal. When we have 15 or 20, yeah, you're closer. Wear a face mask. That's best practice for all of us, right? So, I mean, total compliance, no, but getting better, yes, because we're putting a lot of effort towards talking to them a little bit more. We also have our park operations. They're busy taking care of just all the park trails and open spaces, but they're also during the daytime when they see things going on, they're equipped and trained with our messaging that we're trying to put out there to share the message about wearing face masks and distancing and all that. Yeah, like I said, absolute compliance, no, but getting better, yes.
It's good.
It's adults too, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them are, yes.
This team had a really good conversation about how to approach that issue. We got a lot of advice from the task force on it. So thank you for that. I'm going to Pavel for a comment.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for your presentation. So I have a comment about farmers market. So if there is a possibility, I've been there a few times. If there is a possibility to change one small rule, I know everybody wears the gloves, and you are not allowed to touch anything. So whoever sells their stuff, they are doing it, but they don't change their gloves. So what I've seen with my wife last weekend, I can't take her back to that place anymore.
You're talking about the vendors,
So what I'm thinking, maybe we should request them every time they serve someone, they put the new gloves on.
Okay.
Because
thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, what they do, they eat their own food, spit it in their own gloves, throw it away, and then with the same gloves, they take the stuff and put it in the bag for you.
Okay. No, thank you for that feedback. I will look into that one.
That is great, Pavel. Thank you, because we want the farmers market to be a success. And I think folks who are sort of new to working in the world of a pandemic, they know they have to put on the gloves, but they're not thinking about why those gloves are on their hands. And so you shouldn't be eating. I worked in environmental engineering, and once you have those gloves on, you don't do anything, and you only use them once.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up.
Like a food serving gloves, they're very cheap, and you can easily change them every time you use them.
Oh, yeah. Great point. Thank you, Pavel. I'm not seeing any more questions, and I believe, Wally, we have one more speaker tonight.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do. At one of your previous task force meetings, the idea of shouldn't we have an Issaquah mask? And wouldn't it be great if we had a contest for students to design that mask? So Mayor Pauley, as she often does, took that idea and ran with it and asked Amy Dukes, our arts coordinator, to take the lead in putting together a program. And Amy is here to talk about where we're at and where we're going with this great idea. Amy, good afternoon.
Great, thank you, everyone, and thank you for the great idea. Really excited about it. So just wanted to let you know this creative new initiative that we're going to use to help promote best practices in health and safety, and we're going to launch the Issaquah Face Mask Artwork Design Contest next week, and we're going to put out a call specifically for student artwork. We are fortunate to have some great businesses in town that are actually making face masks. So we've reached out to them, and it looks like we are going to be able to partner with local Issaquah High School alumni business Strideline to produce masks. So also supporting some local folks. And then the Arts Commission will help select some designs. And we're hoping that a percentage of the proceeds can also go to help support a local human services nonprofit. So we are going to try to use social media also just to promote community mask use and feature the different designs that we get, all of them, not just the ones that are selected. And I really look forward to having some more visuals to share with you as those come in. And I'll be sure to share the program announcement with you once we have it ready to launch next week, so that it can get shared far and wide and we get lots of participation. Really excited about this fun program.
Thank you, Amy. Hopefully they're as popular as Pokemon cards were, so we'll see how that goes. People will want the whole set.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're striving for. Any questions for Amy before I head back to City Administrator Bobkowitz for next steps? Jason.
So this is just a quick comment, but I love the idea of the students being involved. And I also think another population that would be great to get involved when we can and where we can is thinking also of seniors. So if we can marry these two together, where it's the seniors are the ones making them and the students are the ones coming up with the designs, these are two populations that are probably being the hardest hit by this pandemic. So again, regardless of what we're thinking about, I never thought about it, but that's a wonderful marriage right there between those two camps. So whether it's street signs or masks or anything, I think those are the populations we want to really keep in mind right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. One of the other things that I've been talking with our council president about, Council President Hunt, was that this group talks a lot about the seniors and isolation. And we recently wrote a letter to 6 of the facilities in town that either provide housing or recuperative care. And we asked them if there were any ideas that they had for our community that we could share with the student population that would bring some connection and joy. Would they like a pen pal program? Would they like kids to prepare crafts for people's birthday or birthday cards? And I did get one response back. They're still swamped. They're still buried, but it's a great sentiment, and hopefully something comes out of that where we partner those two groups together, the youth and the children and the seniors who are really feeling isolated right now. I think this group has been really good about keeping all those folks in mind. So thank you, Jason. That was great. And City Administrator Bobkowitz, I believe the last item we have for tonight is next steps and future task force meetings.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So we've been doing this for several months. We wanted to give you a good update as to where we're at this afternoon with the various initiatives. And so really the question is back to all of you. What should we be doing next? What are the next steps? What does a meeting schedule look like? I think it's staff's thought that perhaps going to a monthly meeting starting in September makes sense, and certainly keeping the task force going through the balance of 2020. But I really would like to hear, and I know Mayor Pauly would as well, your feedback on where we go from here.
Thank you. I would. What I would like to do is just have each one of our task force members check in about those 2 questions. And if you have anything else on your mind as well, whether or not we should be going to monthly, and whether or not you think there is a need to carry this on through 2020. So I am just going to look at my little list here and call on Mike Brennan. What do you think?
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. So as far as reducing the frequency, I think that does make sense right now, but continuing to meet. The monthly sounds about right, keeping some rhythm, because I know it takes a lot of staff time to prepare for these meetings, et cetera, and the work that the staff has presented here is just absolutely incredible. Issaquah definitely is the engine that could here in this, and it's amazing what the staff is and what the city's accomplished and the community in general. The reason I think we should continue to meet is we've been kind of in the place we are for a while in this kind of phase of recovery, but as it continues to evolve and we move into phase 3 and beyond, the circumstances change, and it may require some additional thinking around some of these areas that having a forum or a group of people that can provide some feedback or ideas or suggestions is probably helpful. But I don't know that the twice a month frequency is necessary to accomplish that.
Thank you, Mike. Shashi?
Yeah, hi. I think, well, for a month or two, we can do once a month. That sounds right to me now. Later on, there will be winters, maybe snow, and the cases may come down because people will be required to stay home. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe even vaccine will come, and then we can think of having further meetings. So I think now we can say for next 2 or 3 months, we can say once a month is okay. And I'll be okay with anything you all decide.
That is great. Thank you. You know, we'll go through everybody, but I want folks to feel comfortable knowing that if the commitment is longer than what you think you can do for whatever circumstance, that's fine. I think what we will do is always make sure we have at least 11 voices in the conversation. So it's really, I'm not really asking you whether or not you can or cannot, because you can always say no. But I am interested if you feel like the work that this task force is doing could be done once a month and should extend through the year. So nobody feel any pressure today about whether or not you're signing up or not. You can if you want. Ron, how are you?
Hi all, thanks. So I would agree. I think monthly would be good. And I think we should continue it into for the rest of 2020 with the caveat, if there is a urgency, we have an ad hoc meeting. Because as we move into starting the school season, I think we could see some increases, and there might need to be some creative thinking on how we help the community through this if we do see an uptick in new cases. If I have a community concern, should I bring that up now or should I wait till the end of the meeting?
I will come back to you, Ron, at the end of the meeting. Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up about the potential, if we have a phase change or a significant condition come up, there's definitely more to talk about. Nina.
There we are. Hi.
There you go. Hi.
Thank you. This is Nina Milligan. I'm so glad you waited until that helicopter went over me. So monthly sounds good to me for the rest of the year, or, you know, as we see things develop. I also think that not only are these meetings valuable to me and I hope to the city, but I hope that it is part of that viewership, because this one-stop shop for community members to get information, the speakers that you've brought and the presentations from the city are valuable, not just to us, but to the rest of the community. So I hope that they're well shared. And so for monthly, that gives the public a touch also on the progress. I had a question about work plan going forward, and might be, I'm getting a little too creative here, but did we or will we be talking about the resiliency of the city itself? You're going into the budget season, and we've been talking about how we're rethinking how our businesses operate in the city and trying to help them and trying to help human services, but the city faces its own challenges, and I don't know, the cobbler's kids don't often get their own new shoes. You know, we're out looking at everybody else's problems, but what about the city? I'd be happy to help.
When we're done through this poll, I'll ask City Administrator Bobkowitz to comment on the work plan and to comment on city resiliency. Thank you. That's a really good point. Jason.
I would have to agree with the fellow members that I think once a month is probably fine. I think the staff has done a tremendous job. I think Mayor Pauly has done a wonderful job chairing this committee. And again, the speakers you guys have lined up have not only helped educate me, but I'm sure anyone viewing at large. Once a month does sound about right. To Ron's point, again, if there's a situation that comes up, again, an ad hoc meeting is wonderful. We can always have that in the cards, but I also agree with Mike. Once a month sounds about right, because you do want to keep the rhythm. If all of a sudden it's like 3 months and we meet again, you know, we're all going to be a little spaced out on what was the last thing we talked about?
Yep.
So, yeah, I think
catching up.
Yeah, well, I think once a month is probably more than sufficient, and it would be interesting because I think it might have been you, Mayor, that mentioned also looking at post-recovery, because even pandemics have a shelf life, and even they themselves die. So what does the city look like a little bit afterwards? Because right now we've really just been discussing making our way through this, helping, you know, what is the concern of the day. But at some point, we'll probably want to start talking a little bit about what Issaquah looks like post-COVID-19, as much as, you know, post-COVID-19 is going to be.
Well, and I think that's what City Administrator Bobkowitz referenced when we haven't really been working on our recovery plan, because we're not all the way through yet, and we will need help with our recovery plan, community help. So thank you, Jason. Trish.
I agree with what all the other task members have said. This is why it's easier to come in the middle of the group instead of at the beginning. Everybody has I think once a month is fine. I think there's a lot of value in this group meeting. I think the work that the city has done to keep us educated is great, and I'm amazed at how well we've kept on our work plan. So, yeah, I just look forward to continuing once a month as the city sees fit. Yeah.
That is great. Thank you very much, Trish. Pavel.
Sure.
Well, it's amazing how everybody agrees with each other. I think we all should run for office. But I do agree, of course, once a month, I think it sounds right. And I would say that, as long as these meetings are valuable for the city, we should keep going to the end of the year and beyond it. And I think towards the end of the year, we will be seeing some new developments in the sense of COVID or flu that are gonna hit, and there will be a lot of unknowns coming up together with each other, and people will be a lot of confusing information will be. I'm expecting to come at the end of October, November. So I think it will be very important for us to keep going, and maybe if we needed to have extra meetings.
Great. I appreciate everyone's flexibility. Janine.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I won't repeat all the great points that my fellow committee members have made, but I also agree that monthly is a great rhythm to continue. And then ad hoc, if something urgent comes up or something that we all need to review and help to influence a decision on, I think that would work.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Janine. Marlene.
Hi, you guys. I agree with monthly as long as the effort that it takes the city to put this together is outweighed with the input that you get from us. So as long as you find value, I'm happy to be a part, but want to make sure that we are also knowing that it takes your staff a lot of time to put these things together. So as long as that benefit is there, I'm in agreement.
Okay, I'll tell you the benefits there. This is huge. I talked to some mayors who do not have a group like this and are just making decisions without community input. The benefit is huge. It's huge. This group has produced so many wonderful creative ideas and has been such a great sounding board. So yes, it's work, but this is well worth it. This team has really, really performed well. So that is great. Thank you for that. I completely agree with Ron's point that if there's a significant change in circumstance, need to have the flexibility to be able to pull the group back together more than once a month. Ron, you said you had a community question you wanted to share, and then Wally, if you can talk about the work plan and city resiliency in response to Nina's question, that would be good. So Ron, what's your question?
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things, I live here on Squawk Mountain, and one of the things that I'm personally having a problem with, and I've heard in my community as well, when I worked at Microsoft, I used to have an internet package that would give me 75 megabytes per second. And that was okay for video conferencing, and then I upgraded it to 100. Recently, I've had to upgrade to 200 and 300, and I'm only operating at the same bandwidth as what I had it when I was at 75. That's before school starts.
Yep.
If we work remote, Squawk Mountain, we could have some serious lag problems, and I've contacted Comcast numerous times. My neighbors have. They're not willing to help, or I don't know what the deal is, but there's no solution, and I'm at a loss. So I thought I'd bring it up to our
yes,
force for
thank you.
some assistance or muscle.
So Ron, we have heard from a dozen or more residents on Squawk about that as they are trying to educate their kids remotely and get their work done. I would get Autumn and Tim, who is recording this today, to maybe copy you on an email that sums up some of the communication we've had with Comcast, some of the work that they're doing specifically on Squawk Mountain. But also, the surprising thing to me is if there's a complaint with service like that, your complaint has to go to the FEC's website. Is that correct, Autumn? Is that where we landed on that? We don't have a lot of levers or tools to pull on this one.
We have a contact with Comcast that we've been working with for the past several months, and they've been providing us maps of where they're actually working on some improvements to Squawk specifically. So I can share that with you. We can connect via email to see what neighborhood you're in and whether that will help. But no, we don't have any direct leverage, but know that Comcast has been responsive, at least to the city reaching out and expressing our concerns. And Comcast is well aware that there are service issues in Squawk that need to be fixed.
Autumn, have we shared that on Squawk Mountain Next Door? Has anybody shared that on Squawk Mountain Next Door, the map of where the upgrades are being done?
We've asked Comcast to provide us a contact that they can use then to, we can direct questions to. So I know that's in the process. But we have not posted as the city as far as those maps. I can see if we can make them public.
That's great. I think, Ron, they're behind in their upgrades. And then the pandemic came and everybody got sent home. And it's the Squawk Mountain is the one place we're hearing complaints from. And both Autumn and our city administrator live on Squawk Mountain too. So we
feel your pain.
They hear your pain. They share your pain. But that's really interesting because, you know, we have other neighborhoods where homeschooling and working together is working great. But Autumn, if you could sort of loop Ron in, that'd be good. If we could see about getting more information and Comcast contact out. You know, if everybody on Squawk reaches out to the contact, that's quite a statement right there. So, and Wally, the last part was from Nina, and it was, Nina, can you repeat the question? I wrote down work plan, but I think what you really asked about was the city's resiliency. Is that right?
Well, yeah, what's the technical word and really what do I mean? Everybody's making changes and choices going forward because we know that the recovery is going to not only be long lasting, the recovery itself is very long lasting. But then as several of the task force members have said, even at the end of the recovery, we've got something different. So have we talked about what is different in the city because of COVID, because of budgeting, because of our tax structure, because of all those sorts of things? What do we need to do as a city to be different to get through this and to be different at the end?
So you've got 90 minutes for the answer or two? That is a really big question, and I'm going to get our city administrator to give you some of that information, but that's a big one because a lot has changed and there's a lot that we have to do. But why don't you take a stab at that, Wally?
Let me also rephrase before you go too much to work, Wally. I mostly wanted to know if we were going to be working on that as a task force, not necessarily to answer my whole
Okay, that's the work plan part of it. Okay.
Madam Mayor, Ms. Milligan, I think that's something we need to start working on as a city. As the mayor said, I could probably talk for a little while just in broad terms about a lot of the various component parts to this. Why don't we come back at your September meeting and have this be a presentation and we can spend some time putting that information together. Obviously, we're working on our budget. The mayor is going to present the fiscal 2021 budget to the city council on September 29th. So this is all very front of mind for us right now. And so why don't we come back and talk about that? I think that we are going to need to come up with a more formal recovery plan process. And so I think these comments this afternoon will prod us over the next month to put some meat on that bone, so to speak. And we'll come back at your next meeting in September and talk more.
Thank you, Wally. And I think at a really high level, Nina, we're going to look different when we recover than we do today. We are not going to look like the same sort of city. It's going to look and feel different. And from my take, we're going to be leveraging our partnerships and leveraging the volunteerism in our community to get a lot of things done because we are just not going to have the people or the dollars to do what we used to do for quite a while. So it's going to be fun to figure out how we're going to do all that stuff. Awesome. Great question. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming today. As always, the 90 minutes goes by super fast. Our next meeting is August 27th at 4 p.m.
No, it won't be.
No. Okay, my notes are wrong.
I'm sorry. So based on this discussion, we'll skip the next scheduled meeting. We'll go to a monthly meeting calendar, and September 10th. Joanne, am I just confirm that calendar? So it'll be Thursday, September the 10th at 4 o'clock.
Oh, that is great. Thank you, Wally. That's great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all your ideas, your thoughts, your comments, your feedback. Wonderful. Have a great day.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Wally. Thanks, y'all.